Welcome everyone, and this is what's this, our fourth edition or fifth edition of the Sales Hangout. I'm losing track of them, but
At least
obviously,
five.
guys, is it number five? All
It's
right,
got to
see,
be at
Greg's
least
watching
five.
and paying
Yeah.
attention.
We're,
Me and
we're
Nick,
almost we're almost on the second hand, so we're
there
getting
we go, we're getting
better.
there. So the goal, obviously, is for us to walk away with some nuggets, right? Some takeaways, some value add, something that you can implement into your business every day. So this week we got Greg Watson on, who is a producing branch manager out of Conshohocken, PA. Greg's been in business for quite some time. He runs a really, great branch, does a lot of different types of business. So we wanted to kind of pick Greg's brain. So Greg, thanks for stopping on today to the Sales Hangout. Hopefully everyone can get some nuggets from you. Let's start off, give me the background. How did you get started into this business, and, where did it all begin?
Well, first, thanks for having me on, guys. This has been very valuable to me. I've pulled stuff from pretty much everybody that you've had on so far. So hopefully I can bring a little something to it as well. But I got started in the industry back in end of '04. So the Wild West days, you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. It was a lot of fun for about 2 years. Jumped into Countrywide. I think I told you guys before my recruitment story. I was dropped out of college my second year. I was an athlete. I was a soccer player, playing on scholarship. I kind of like had enough, and I definitely was not a very good student. I just ADD. I just never had any interest in it. So once I stopped playing sports, that was really it for me. And I kind of dropped out and figured, you know what, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. Got a job at a restaurant, started bartending. And just like every other mortgage person, I was recruited as a bartender to get into the mortgage industry. That's how it works. So guy was a big drinker. That's another thing. If you're a manager in the mortgage industry back then, you had to be a heavy drinker. But yeah, I mean, I got into Countrywide. I was an LO. Within the first year, I think it was like top 2% of the company. Then I moved to a team lead, and I was a top team lead in that company up until they closed. So had a lot of success right away, and then got smacked across the face with the meltdown. Thought I'd be able to just get another job easily, and man, I was caught off guard by that. But when that meltdown happened, I definitely knew I didn't want to be in retail anymore. I wanted to be more personal. So I got into like the net banking side of it, which is what we're doing here. And it was tough, man. I realized real quick that I did not have any relationships. I was answering phones and closing deals and all that stuff, but I didn't have really anything. So for about 10 years, I would say from '08 to 18, I kind of just, grassroots, just tried to figure it out. And, I would say I had like moderate success. I was probably making, I think I said this to you guys before, for 10 years, I was making the same amount of money. It's kind of like treading water. And in 15 is when I had my first son. 16, I had my second. 18, I had my third. And I kind of like woke up one day and I was like, what am I doing? Can I curse on this? What the fuck am I
Absolutely.
doing? Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm making the same exact money as I've been making for the past 10 years. And so 18, for those of you that were in the industry in 18, it was a tough year. It was a difficult year. And I had made the decision to do some soul searching in 18 because I had three kids. I was having the worst year in the mortgage industry I've ever had. And so I looked myself in the mirror and said, I'm not, I figured I'm not doing enough. I have to find out, I have to go on a search here to figure out how to take this thing to the next level. And that was a very eye-opening experience. And I kind of connected, through some people through social media. I saw some guys in the industry and across industries that were doing some cool stuff on social media. So I started by reaching out to them, having some conversations, and you know, it led me down this rabbit hole of what I call some soul searching, and really kind of figuring out why I'm in the industry and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And you know, it got me to the point where I realized that I was meant to do this. I was meant to do this to help people attain home ownership. I told you the story. Went through that process in 18. You know, I connected with this guy who had a marketing firm out of New York, and you know, we had like a couple of calls, and he was like, he's like, in order for us to work together, I need to know why you do this. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I like the money I can make in it. He's like, no, that's not why you do this. It's like, that's not why anyone successful at the highest level does anything. It has to be more than money. And so through that process, I kind of started peeling back the layers and going to my own childhood, which I really don't think I ever really did up until that point. And you know, I grew up in a single family household raised by my mom. So me and my two sisters were raised by my mom. Lived with my grandparents through that period of time, and my mom was out basically cleaning houses to make money. And she, over a period of time, would clean houses, then started cleaning apartments, and kind of over a period of time turned that into a small business. And years of doing that, you know, my mom would leave early, come home late. I really didn't see her, you know, for a good handful of years in my childhood. But the biggest thing that I took from that was, as I was going into high school, my mom rented our first place. So me and my sisters, instead of living with our grandparents and being under their thumb and everything else, my mom got a townhouse. Okay. 2 years after that, she was able to buy her own house. Right. And looking back, the impact that had on me and my sisters was huge. Right. We had our own place. Right. My mom worked her ass off. I saw that firsthand. I saw what it took. She got a little help along the way. She connected with a mortgage person that was willing to put the time in to try to make that deal work. And so I've seen firsthand what home ownership looks like, and the impact it can have on a family, and how it can change the trajectory of generations to come. And I also saw firsthand the work that goes into the amount of work that people put in to attain that goal. And so that's really, from my soul searching, what stuck with me is it wasn't like just looking at someone's income or somebody that's self-employed and, you know, just kind of going through and checking boxes. Man, I knew, like, I still talk to people that are self-employed. I talked to a guy that runs a warehousing company right now. He's going through a tough time. And I saw firsthand, like, I can see what he's dealing with through what my mother dealt with on that journey. And why I carry that with me today is it's a difficult deal, and it's not something I can finish in a single call. And there's a lot of doc chasing and a lot of help and a lot of hand holding I got to do there. But for me, understanding why I do what I do empowers me and gives me the energy to continue to go through and help these people attain that goal, even if it's a more difficult deal, even if it's a deal that I haven't done before. So that's a long-winded answer.
Yeah, no,
that's probably about 8 minutes, but that's how I got into the industry.
It's a good answer. You know, what I want to ask you though, was this something that you look back on, like, this guy triggered that, right? This person in New York triggered that, you looking back. So this is something that you did after you were already in the business, right? This isn't something that you
I was in the business for
a kid.
No, not at all.
You recognize this 14 years later, right? So I think the takeaway from that is what's your why, right? What's the reason that you're doing it? What's the purpose? I think having a purpose is what you told Nick and I the other day, is right, that you wanted to have a purpose in this business, and that purpose was to help others. And I think that's exactly what you articulated there. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everyone on this call. Yeah, is that soul searching is something that happens after the fact, right? Yeah, there's that trigger moment.
It's deep, and that's where I think everyone, you know, Jay, to piggyback, Greg, you had to go deep, right? I mean, not one question like, hey, what's your, you know, why do you do it? It's like, again, we're all here for money, right? Money is a motivator for all of us in sales because it allows us to do things that we want to do. But why are we doing it, right? You even have this, you have this shift in 18, having 3 kids, right? So there's a different perspective there. But when you go back and dig deep into your own childhood and like Jay's talking about, I would encourage everybody to try and find your deeper why. Like never be satisfied with, hey, why do you do it? Like one question, two questions, three questions. Greg, how many questions do you think you had to get through in order to find out that like your true passionate why?
It was several calls and a lot of, it was not that it was like these long-winded like therapy sessions, but it was really like I was at a point where I was like, if I really want to take this seriously and do what I want to do, I really have to really dig deep here. I have to pull back the layers. I'm the type of person where success or failure, I compartmentalize and I move on, right? And so for me, like that was stuff. I tell that story a lot now, but that was, in 2018, I never even thought about that. I never looked back to even think about that. And so, when I started like going back and it was like, well, what was my teenage years like? And then and kind of going back and back, that was kind of like, he kind of like turned the light bulb on, I'll say. And then it was up to me to really kind of go down that path and really, really dig into it.
And you went down that path. And I think what's really cool, and, when you, Jay, and I were talking, the other day too, is it's now a passion for you to pay it forward to your team, right? How can you
100%.
Helping others, not only helping them from a home ownership perspective, but you've got your team. So, we talked about a couple different things that you're doing with your team. So for those kind of branch managers or people who have teams, what are some things that you're doing with your team that, again, we're talking a lot of mindset stuff, right? How are you helping them, and what are some things that, some nuggets you might be able to kind of give to some other leaders and branch managers on this call?
Well, I mean, number one, I think it's, if you're frustrated with where you are, then where I was back in 18, I was just frustrated with where I was. And so it was enough where I wanted to do something about it. And when I decided that I was going to do something about it, then it's like, then it was like, rolling the ball down the hill, right? It started out slow, but then it just gets momentum and it keeps going. And then that kind of bled into everything that I do, right? The seeking of discomfort that we talked about and everything else. But, number one, when I talk to my team, I have some guys that are younger than me on the team. I have people, guys that are, haven't experienced, the depth of things that maybe I have, and vice versa. And so number one's talking about it, right? Having an open environment and talking about, asking the question, what's your why? What are you doing this for? It's got to be bigger than a paycheck. But then second to that, like, talking about what we're doing right now, you're constantly challenging yourself and challenging the team to step outside the comfort zone and to do more. I talked to you guys right now. One of the things that we're doing we started September 1st we're calling it our marketing challenge. And it's a little bit of everything. It's, it's social media stuff, right? So we're getting back to, our social media. We have some parameters that we set in place that we're going to have video social media posts of family as well, right? Because, back to what I said, Greg Watson, myself, like, I'm not all about business, right? My family is a huge part of my life. So when people are choosing a mortgage lender to work with, they're choosing Greg Watson. They're choosing Scott Brookshire. They're choosing Jay Madursky, Nick Capretta. Like, that's who they're choosing. And so I think it's important to make sure that they know me personally. They know what I'm about, right? And then obviously I need to also talk about my business knowledge and the experience I have, because all of that matters. It's not just one piece, but the marketing challenge that we're doing is social media. It's grassroots, old school, getting face to face. And damn, I forgot my third thing, Jay.
Well, you let the world know what you're good at, right? I think, the links to social media are updated. One weekly meeting face to face, and post a video twice a week, and one personal, which I think is the key, is that personal piece. Greg, you and I have chatted about this on several occasions, right? I mean, it's about making a name for yourself, and others reap the rewards of that, right? Other people in your company, if you're close in proximity, which Nick in Columbus, you have quite a few, right? And one bad apple can spoil the bunch, but when everybody's kind of, has the same professionalism, and they're, geared and marketing the same way, You want to do business with the people. It's not always about the rate. It's not always about the product. It's about the person. It's about the relationship. And I think that's, Greg, what you've really started to focus on over the last probably 3 or 4 years has probably been more of that, I would say, because prior to this, I mean, I've known you for a long time now. It was more, hey, lead generation, all that stuff. But you've completely refocused and removed your entire business to, no, this is relationship driven, and I'm going to tell you why I'm the best.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like I said, one of the big things that I came to realize was it doesn't matter the name of the company. Like it's a personal thing, especially with what we do. I tell the story of the one realtor. I won't say his name just in case anyone on here knows him, but he was literally the worst real estate agent I ever met in my entire life. But back in 2015, 16, he had gotten the business. He was in for 1 year and he was doing $15 million a year. And again, he was the worst real estate agent in the world. But like, I will tell you this right now, he was the most personable dude you'd ever meet. He had his flaws, but he did not try to hide them. He just was his 100% authentic self. And I tell my team about it, like, this guy got more referral business than anyone I ever met. He literally, every deal was fucked up at the table, every single one of them. And the next day he was getting a referral from those people. So, I tell people that, like, be your authentic self and be okay with it. And you know what? As long as you're authentic and you are who you are, people are going to be okay with it. And you'll be surprised how much that makes up for. Because listen, mistakes are made in what we do. We have a lot of hands touching files as they make their way through the process. And if you just take, a step back and not making it all about the business, because if you make it all about the business, if one thing goes wrong, now you're getting a bad review and now you're not getting referrals. But if you take interest in people's lives and their families and what their goals are, and then share with them your personal self, I just find that you'll get, like, when mistakes happen, it's, oh, no big deal. It's no worries, Greg. Hey, 5-star review. Hey, call my Aunt Susie. So I think that's a really important piece, in what I learned back then. And again, I was probably closing $15 million back then. I think within the next year, I went straight to 30 million, and I've been over 30 million. I think I closed close to 50 million in 21 and 22 each year. So, again, this stuff for me worked. And I think really the message that I would share there is that, if you're hesitant to get out there and be yourself, whether it's on social media, in meetings, I'll talk about the social media thing real fast. Someone told me this, back in 18, and I kind of stuck with it. No one gives a shit what you look like. No one cares what your message is. They care about themselves, right? So do your social media, right? Just have this mindset that no one's watching it. But the nice part about the social media is it's only an aspect of what I do, but I find it important because it's the easiest way to stay in front of your personal relationship and all your connections, right? Marketing is just about being in front of the people when they've made their decision to buy. And social media is just a cheap, easy way to do that. And it really doesn't matter what content you're putting out there. You can spend a ton of time on it, and that's great. I think you'll get more engagement. But if you just put your videos out there of your personal self, even if it's once a week, and stay in front of people, I find that's really important. There's a guy that works for me, and I'm being long-winded here, but I want to get my point across. The guy, Gus, works for me. We started this challenge, and he was real hesitant to put a video out. And I said, dude, here's the deal. I need a video by the time I get back to the office at 1 o'clock. That's it. I said, I don't care what you talk about, whatever. He made a video. He wasn't happy with it. I did some really quick editing to it. He posted the video. He had like 8 shares. He had like 50 likes, and he had 3 phone calls. So, yeah, but again, he's just in his own, like, he's just in his head. He goes, oh, I'm embarrassed. I don't look good. I don't sound good. No one cares. Right?
No one cares. That's the truth.
No one cares.
That no one cares. And I think, what you had touched on before was get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is probably the biggest, I love that message. It's one of my favorite messages to tell people all the time, is just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And success tends to find its way around there. But you have other motivation too, and you had mentioned, you have from 2018 to now, you had said, you just started to become fearful that somebody else was going to do it. And that just became your motivation, right? The fear of missing out. Somebody's going to eat your lunch. So, explain that to people, like that mindset and how that makes you, motivate you, and makes you run forward.
So, I mean, kind of a theme here real quick. I mean, we're just like a lot of the stuff that I focus on right now is mindset, especially in this industry, right? I mean, there's with in the age of social media and Twitter or X, whatever it is now, there's negativity thrown at us every single day. And so, one of the most important things right now is your mindset. It's working on your mindset. It's finding those resources to keep a positive mindset and continue to move forward. But I will tell you right now, I'm a big believer in 2008 sucked. I'm sorry, 2018 sucked. 2019 wasn't good. These were down markets. And this is when I started doing a lot of the grassroots stuff, a lot of my social media and all that. And then when the market changed, boom, $50 million in closed volume the next year. So I'm a big believer that your growth is in markets like this right now. And so back to what you had mentioned about being fearful, my goal every single day is to try to connect with a new agent, a new referral partner, because I'm scared that the market's going to change on a dime and I'm not ready. That's my biggest fear right now. I know people are consumed with just trying to get by and, find their next deal. I would encourage you to change the mindset on that and understand one thing: the market is going to change at some point. The $1 million question is when. No one knows the answer to that. But, I'll point to COVID, right? For a year and a half leading up to that, I was just doing my social media and I was doing all the stuff we're talking about on this call. And then when it changed, boom, $50 million in close volume, right? I was doing 15 million before that. So, right. So if I wasn't doing that stuff when I had the time, I would have never had the results then. And so
reiterate that, Greg. Your mindset, you're planning and building now for when, right?
For the next market, for when the market turns, which we don't know when that's going to be.
Right. Not tomorrow, not next month. Like you're forward thinking. In our conversation, you're saying, hey, I'm building for 2024, 2025. Right?
Yep.
Sometime in that time frame, I think we could all agree that we're going to see something. To what degree of it, not sure. But I think it's an important thing because, and we might have had on one of the earlier ones too, I love the expectations that you're setting for yourself and you're setting for the team. Because we're used to that instant gratification previously, right? 2 years ago, it's like you talk to somebody, you get a deal. You talk to somebody, you get a deal.
And if you didn't care because there was someone else. Yep.
Right. You're looking and planning for 2 years out. I think that how you're doing that, you're leading yourself and leading your team, is huge for other branch managers to hear that and understand that too.
Yeah, I think that number one, you Nick, like you said, you have to have a goal, right? Like I want to close $100 million personally next market, right? And my biggest fear right now that's driving me every day to do what I'm doing, to make the phone calls, to do all the follow-up, all the tedious stuff that's really not paying off like it has in the last market, right? We have to work a lot harder right now for every single deal. And that's sometimes, it's frustrating and you want to like throw in the towel. You're just like, you know what, I'm going to blow off the rest of the afternoon. So back to, what I'm saying is finding your why and finding your motivation is, if I want to do $100 million when this market changes, that seed's being sown right now. When the market changes, and I assume it's going to change quickly just because I feel like that's the pattern that we've gotten into, my biggest fear is right now, I don't have the relationships to close $100 million. I know I don't. And so my biggest fear is that the market changes too soon, right? And then I'm back in like this $50 million range. And that's not where I want to be. My goal is to be at $100 million personally. And so my motivation daily is like, it's almost like that fear that someone else is going to take my relationship, that fear that somebody else is going to eat my lunch, Jay, right? And so that's me personally. What I use as motivation is, I have written on my vision board $100 million, right? And every time I look at that, I go, do I have the relationships? That's like boom, boom. It's written on my vision board, $100 million personal production. And when I go and I look at that, I go, oh shit, pick up the phone call. Cause I know right now I don't have the relationships to close $100 million. And so that's the checks and balances that I put in place for myself. But right now, just to close out that point, if you're like, there's a million reasons to bury your head in the sand right now. And there's a million loan officers in this industry that are doing that. They're getting out. And the ones that are remaining probably aren't doing what I'm saying right now. And if you can find the motivation and have the forward thought to look out to 24 and 25, and you can create, even if it's, if your volume goal is 20 million on the other side of this, go find those relationships, because now's your opportunity to get them. Now every realtor is answering every single phone call, right? They're not answering they're not returning a text, a call, or an email in 21 or 22, right? So understand right now is where you're building your wealth, just like you would in any market, right? You buy stocks in a bear market, let it run later.
I think that one of the things though is look, you're setting a lofty goal, right? You're doubling your business, and most people won't set a lofty goal like that because of failure. I'm going to set that as a goal, but I don't think I'm ever going to get there. I think the key to what you're saying, Greg, is set the goal. And you know what? If you fall short of it, don't be afraid to fail with it. And you had said that before, right? Don't have fear of failure. So I think you have to set lofty goals because it challenges you to get a little, again, going back to being uncomfortable, right? Doing the things that you know are necessary, but you don't really so much want to do it. And you have to do that in this type of market, or you can sit back and complain and say, well, interest rates aren't great. And, I'm not really sure what to talk about. And this is where personality really starts to shine. This is where the relationship starts to shine, because guess what? Everyone has bad interest rates right now. Everyone has it's a tough market for everyone. So I think the goal for everyone should be go and get uncomfortable. I think all those things that you've touched on is fear, facing fears. And when you face fears, you're uncomfortable. It's a really easy, clean, consistent message. And if you're sharing that with your team, I think it's super helpful. But the one thing I do want you to touch on, before we finish this up, is also keeping that negative thought and all the trash out and all the people barking in your ear. You like to stack little wins, you had said, right? That it's something that kind of keeps your mind right. Touch on that.
So I think as motivated individuals, right? Which if you're a loan officer in this market, I'm gonna lump you in as a motivated individual. I think we are hard on ourselves to begin with, right? We almost are tortured souls in a sense, right? Like even with the greatest success, we're looking like what we could have done better. And in a market that's as difficult as it is and is painfully slow moving, I think it's real easy to get down on ourselves and think we're not doing enough. And so one of my messages to myself and to my team is to stack daily wins, right? Like I'm not trying to move mountains right now. I'm just trying to stack little win after little win after little win, right? And so what does that look like? I mean, it's simple. It's like going through and calling a real estate agent, texting a real estate agent. Like on Monday morning, I woke up, I think I went through, I was just like, Monday morning anxiety. And I'm like, world is full, world's going to collapse. Well, so I wake up and I'm like, let me just do one thing. So I text like 10 realtors, happy Monday, have a great week. Right. And then I just go through a bunch of my prospects and just start firing out some emails. Hey, have a great week. Nothing business related. But man, just that one little win I get Monday morning changes everything, right? And then you roll in and then you make a couple other calls and all of a sudden you get a referral, And so I think it's this fine line. I'm saying, I don't want to contradict myself in saying, hey, step outside your comfort zone, do more, but also be patient with yourself. Like, you're going to have good days and bad days in this market. But if you're having a bad day, don't lose an entire day. Like stack one small win. And that could be something as simple as like what I just said. Following up on a lead.
It's really good advice.
So stack little wins. And listen, if you can stack little wins for 300 days in a row, you're going to have some significant results, right? What I don't want my team doing is coming in on Monday and making 50 phone calls and then doing nothing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? I told you guys a story about one of the loan officers I had years ago who did that, and needless to say, he's not in the business anymore. But it's stacking little win after little win, day after day, will make a significant difference. It's not going to feel like it until all of a sudden one day you lift your head up and you close $25 million when you're used to closing 10.
I love it.
Real quick, the last thing I'm going to ask, and you can make it real quick, but I know some people are always interested, Greg, and we talked about this. You're leading yourself in your mindset. Who are you listening to? What are you reading? Like, what's on your, in your library right now, whether it's podcasts, whether it's people that you're, feeding yourself with? Give us a couple quick hitters as to people we could kind of maybe start following, start listening to help out with that self-inspiration.
If you need a kick in the ass and you don't like being talked to like you're a piece of shit, then David Goggins is a great start, right? Yeah. I have days where I need to be, I need my ass kicked, and that's who I turn on. Rob Dyrdek, you remember the guy from that MTV show Fantasy Factory? Dude, he's a great motivational speaker. I mean, a lot of what I find is podcasts, and what I would say is get into the pods. I have a 20-minute drive, so I listen to short pods and I listen to the motivational stuff pretty much every single day. I would start there, and then Tony Robbins is a great one. He has a short daily pod, and it's usually like an excerpt from one of his bigger events. And I every single day, 20 minutes, I just listen to it, and it changes my day. And listen, I gotta tell you, like, this morning I'm like everybody else, man. I mean, like I have good days and days I wake up and I'm overwhelmed and I think I'm not doing enough and all this stuff. Little stuff like that. Changing your mindset, listening to something positive makes a significant difference. And if you can get in the habit of doing it for a little bit every single day, again, it's, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 minutes a day of something positive, whether it's a book or a pod, it makes a world of difference. Because at any other outlet that you see, most likely you're getting pushed, negative stuff. We're all front and center every single day is mortgage rates. World is, the United, I'm not going to get political, but the divisiveness in the United States is crazy. So, I mean, like we're constantly fed this stuff. There's so many positive stuff out there. If you just find one of them in whatever media source that is for you, you will find a chain of other stuff that speaks to you. And, if you listen to one and it's not the right person, go to the next one. There's so many people out there spreading good messages. That'll meet your niche. I'm a pod guy, but hope that answers it, but that's what I would do.
Stuff.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I mean, it's been a half an hour. These things tend to go by pretty quick. I think some of the takeaways for people that are still here listening, Greg was a bartender in 2004, 2005, and some mortgage guy walked in and thought he could be a really good mortgage loan officer. And sure shit, that guy was right. So for all of you branch managers that are out there, don't ever look under every stone, right? If you're at a bar, if you're at a restaurant, if you're going and buying shoes, if you find somebody that has that personality you think could really succeed in this business, there's an opportunity to grow, right? I think that's one of the takeaways from this. And having a purpose, helping others, Greg, I think is such a good message, because I think we lose sight of that. I think in this industry, it's really easy to forget the good that we do. Getting people into a home is a really big task. Look, we're not curing cancer. We're not fixing hearts, but you're giving a roof over someone's head, right? You're providing that opportunity. So
I don't want to downplay that, Jay. I don't want to downplay that, because I will say this is that if you don't realize what you're doing, and it's easy to get caught up in it because it's what we do to make money. You're changing people's lives. You're changing you're changing their lives and generations' lives with what we do. And, I feel like a lot of times, that's understated. And I will tell you that, think about all the people that you got into houses in 18, 19, and 20 and how much money that they have in equity right now. You've changed their lives. And we lose sight of that stuff. And, I think I believe in home ownership. I told you my story why I think that everybody on this call needs to take more pride in what we're doing for people, because we're changing lives, even if it's not the financial piece. I mean, you're changing a generation, the people's lives for generations to come, potentially, by getting them into their first house.
Such a good message. So, and then one last thing is I think be vulnerable. And when I say be vulnerable, I think that's again, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, is an important play, because it comes across very genuine. And people want that, right? That's how you build and forge that relationship with people, when they can have that connection with you. So, Greg, I appreciate the time. It was awesome. I hope everybody got something out of this. Nick, thanks again. Katrina, thank you for helping us out, putting this together in the sales hangout. Great job. Anybody has any questions, please reach out to Greg. He's here. He is an awesome guy. We'll be more than happy to share more detail with what he's doing on a tech stack and on an everyday basis. So thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.